There's a video out there that will happen to it. Everybody's seen the video. The video went about it. Was all the entire world situated? So we understand what happened. I want somebody to be captured. And I want equity for my family and Shanquella in light of the fact that it's been 5 months and afterward, I can carry on within their life. Realistic wireless film, released internet-based in knife, Weller Robinson's frightening homicide in October last year shook the whole U.S. Shanquella, passed on from a wrecked neck. Simply a day in the wake of arriving in Mexico, with her companions now, her companions are attempting to approach this homicide as a coincidental liquor, harming her mom, thinks her mates are lying about her girl, demise truly is reality. And what does Shanquell's mom need to say regarding Shanquell's sidekick Dejani? We should see the reason why I have no clue and Carla was a thoughtful individual, a caring individual, so I don't have the foggiest idea why anybody would treat her so harshly as that knife. Weller Robinson's passing shipped off craze in both the U.S. and Mexico. Last October, the youthful financial specialist went out traveling to Cabo, Mexico, with 6 others whom she thought of her as companions, yet only 24 hours in the wake of handling Shaquila's mom, got a call that her little girl was biting the dust knife. While his mom Lizard was in contact with her girl when she arrived in Mexico, in her last call Shanquella told her she planned to get tacos with her companions, yet the following time she got a call from Mexico, the earth slipped from under her feet. Her companions called me. They said Shanquella has liquor harming, and that a specialist was en route to the estate. By and large, Salamandra thinks it is peculiar that these individuals quickly determined Shanquella to have liquor harming on her own in an alternate country. Salamandra couldn't do much for her little girl aside from ask these companions to take Shanquella to the specialist. However, they denied the manor's chief was coming over with a surgeon, and these 6 companions were glad to stand by while Shanquella clutched to your life. I don't know whether anybody at any point showed up in light of the fact that I was never permitted to converse with them. I requested that they let me address the specialist when they showed up, yet they let me know that the specialist is occupied with Shanquella. The following thing Salamandra heard was that her girl had kicked the bucket. The entire family was crushed that Shanquella would leave them unexpectedly early. Yet I prefer not to see my kid leave here like that. You realize that was horrendous way for her to pass on the family. At first acknowledged that Shanquella had, as a matter of fact, passed on from liquor harming, as these companions recommended. In the long run, somebody from the manor's supervisory crew told the crushed family. The colleague told Shanquell's dad, Mr. Robinson, your girl didn't pass on from liquor harming, she passed on from a wrecked neck. This was an unnerving new detail for the family. Shanquell, as companions had sat in her home and told her folks she had passed on from liquor harming, had these purported companions boldly lied to the lamenting family. Salamandra is shocked by the daringness and remorselessness of these individuals. These individuals left me in the face and let me know there was no battle in Cabo. They said Shanquella passed on from liquor harming. They missiled the family through their teeth and were unashamed to such an extent that they even examined burial service garments. With the lamenting family, they were crying. They said they never had a battle. They even stayed here and said they were getting what they were wearing to the memorial service only days after a wireless video surfaced web-based that was sufficiently frightening to creep anybody out. In the video, one of the companions should be visible fiercely beating the exposed casualty. The post-mortem examination affirmed the family's most exceedingly terrible trepidation. Shanquella had kicked the bucket, an excruciating, ruthless demise. Her spine had serious harm and neck had been broken. Salamandra defied these beasts. Shanquella thought of her as companions when she requested one from the buddies. What the reality of the situation was, he floundered and couldn't keep himself intact. The crushed mother reviews now that stuff done happen. I can return and say that is the reason he was pacing. I mean, you would have thought he was falling off something, like he was high. He broke out in a perspiration. He came out his shirt. He was perspiring so terrible. It's like it was gobbling him up now. Obviously, Shanquell's companion, Dig Jackson, tormented her to death, while the others stood and watched. One of them even caught everything on his telephone. As opposed to assisting the unfortunate lady, at one point a companion with Canning be heard rooting for the attacker, while another man says essentially retaliate why the battle occurred. Is as yet hazy, however, one thing is for sure: Shanquella died of no liquor harming. She kicked the bucket because of individuals she thought of her as dear companions. After this overwhelming revelation, Lizard needs just equity for Shangela, her delightful, brilliant girl, didn't merit the spade, and the family is doing everything possible to ensure that the lying cutthroat killer Jackson pays for her violations alongside all the others that held on and watched Shanquella bite the dust. A horrendous passing. I believe the world should see it. I believe that everything should come out on the grounds that I need equity for my youngster. After the homicide, Jackson deceived the lodging to return her companion, sent herself once again to the U.S. The attendant at the hotel uncovered this data and said, when I saw the video via virtual entertainment, I understood that basically the principal visitor, Miss Jackson, had controlled me with the data she gave of what ended up driving the country quickly. Obviously, DT didn't simply deceive the family, however, even to the retreat and police. To escape inconvenience, she securely returned to the U.S. and worked everything out such that a lot harder for Shangela's family. To get her sentenced seems to be the family will need to contend energetically to ensure they get equity. The homicide occurred in Mexico, and the principal thing these guilty parties did was head out back to the U.S. now. The family is approaching President Joe Biden and Secretary of State Anthony Cover by and by to bring their family equity. Will possibly be served in the event that the state media by and by the family's lawyer sent a letter to the president and requested quick activity. The lawyer told the media in our letter to President Biden and Secretary Blinken, we obviously express that one of two things needs to happen. Either the U.S. removes Shanquella as executioner to Mexico, or the U.S. takes locale of the case, and her executioner is arraigned here. Expressed Crump. In an official statement, inaction isn't okay for this situation. Shanquella's family merits quick equity for passing. The best way to think about this present circumstance and finish these phony companions off is to either send them back to Mexico or for the U.S. to authoritatively assume control over issues. The lawyer said that the U.S. resident carries out manslaughter in Mexico and gets once again to the U.S. As you know, they can have to deal with criminal penalties in the U.S. under bureaucratic regulation or state regulation, relying upon the conditions of the wrongdoing. We would rather not pass on any space for the organization to say we have barely any insight into the case. We didn't have the subtleties. We didn't have the foggiest idea about what the family asked us. She said, on the grounds that we really want an elevated degree of discretionary mediation. We sent the correspondence to the most noteworthy negotiators in our country. Ideally, the public authority will ensure